Russell Westbrook, as usual, seems to be at the center of every cause and potential solution to the dysfunction of the Los Angeles Lakers. He certainly isn't the Lakers' only issue. LA has gotten very little from DeAndre Jordan, Trevor Ariza, Kent Bazemore, and Wayne Ellington, veterans brought in by Lakers general manager Rob Pelinka to support the Lakers star trio. Not nearly enough from youngster Talen Horton-Tucker and nothing at all from Kendrick Nunn. But Russell Westbrook is the most polarizing, and because the Lakers traded away virtually all assets they had to improve the team to acquire the three superstars this team revolves around, this trio is stuck with one another. It's too expensive to get divorced. That it's even a conversation now, 47 games into the grandest of experiments, it's an indictment in and of itself. As one Laker insider has already said, there is no light at the end of the tunnel. For the Los Angeles Lakers, a roster shakeup is not coming. Laker Nation, please get that notion out of your heads. Nonetheless, LeBron James has been here before. You only have to go back to the 2017-18 season to find a time when he was playing at a high level, but surrounded by a roster that wasn't working. The Cleveland Cavs at that time were 3-10 in the month following a Christmas Day loss to the Golden State Warriors, laying bare to multiple problems with that roster, which was big on names such as Hall of Famer D. Wade, former MVP Derrick Rose, All-NBA point guard Isaiah Thomas, and the group was light on cohesion. When the trade deadline arrived, Cleveland completely reshaped its roster, sending away Wade, Rose, Thomas, Channing Frye, Jay Crowder, Iman Shumpert, all in three separate deals. With the new players around him, LeBron James would carry Cleveland to its fourth consecutive NBA Finals appearance. The Lakers, however, well, fans shouldn't expect history to repeat itself in 2022, at least not as it pertains to February. While James is playing at a high level, posting his highest scoring average since the 2009 season, the Lakers do not have the ability to make a series of sweeping roster changes. More likely than not, this Laker roster is going to look very similar on February 11th to how it does now. Here are three reasons why the Lakers are going to be stuck with this roster at the trade deadline. First, let's begin with Russell Westbrook's sinking trade value. The Lakers knew the risk when they acquired Westbrook and the $91.3 million remaining on his contract. If adding Westbrook as a third star didn't work, there wasn't going to be a mulligan available to the Lakers. The 2021 offseason marked the third in a row in which Westbrook was traded. In 2019, he was sent from OKC to Houston for what was labeled as a toxic contract and Chris Paul. Most of us were wrong in that assertion. In 2020, the Rockets sent Westbrook to the Wizards for the equally difficult to move contractor John Wall, who has not played a game this season as Houston tries to move him. However, in this current NBA landscape, those types of unmovable contracts, the ones for which another Westbrook deal would likely happen, don't exist. Taking Westbrook and Wall out of the equation, look at the 10 highest paid players in the NBA: Steph Curry, James Harden, and LeBron James, Kevin Durant, Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, Giannis, Dame, Clay, and Jimmy Butler. Most of the healthy players on that list are playing at an all-NBA level. None of their teams are looking to deal them, much less for a 33-year-old in Russell Westbrook, who's having his worst scoring season since 2009. Right, going further down that list, well, let's look at Andrew Wiggins, who had a contract which was once looked at as a burden. And, he's a 2014 number one pick, but now he's an all-star starter. Kevin Love, for example, has turned into a six-man of the year candidate in Cleveland as they are surging. And that $60 million left on his contract is no longer seen as dead money. Looking around the league, there are also no trades that would split up the Westbrook contract into multiple players, similar to what the Wizards did last offseason. Unless, of course, a team like the Knicks feel Westbrook can inject life into that lifeless roster. right? A 35-point performance. We saw that last week from Russell Westbrook in Charlotte. It shows Westbrook can still play at an elite level, but only when he does not have to defer. If you want further proof, look at the 2016 season when Westbrook won the MVP award, right? That was the Thunder's first season without Kevin Durant, right? Not even a hypothetical Westbrook for Wall trade would make sense, right? We've been hearing that all across YouTube from multiple people who claim to be basketball aficionados, right? Who would find themselves in the same situation if they made a trade like that, similar to what they're in with John Wall? The Lakers would need to entertain attaching multiple draft picks or a player like THT to make that deal. And it's not clear that swapping the two all-star guards would even change the Lakers' fortunes at all. Right, still, any contract is tradable. We have to consider that. Just ask Kemba Walker, John Wall, and even Westbrook himself. A team like OKC would certainly jump to the front of the line if the Lakers were willing to cut bait with Westbrook, as long as an unprotected, let's say, 2027 first and right to swap first in 2028 were attached. But there could always be that desperate team that has buyer's remorse on the money that they've spent in the offseason. Perhaps a team like the Knicks come in and see Westbrook as a player that they've been missing. We saw that in Houston, Washington most recently. Now the Lakers are dealing with the Westbrook headache. However, the goal for the Lakers is to improve the roster, not simply get rid of Russell Westbrook. Right? Let's take a look at the salary construction of the roster. Right? When you look at the salary construction, two things clearly stand out. First, the Lakers have $120 million tied up in three players: Westbrook, James, and Anthony Davis. Second, the only player on the roster making more than the minimum of the three stars are Horton Tucker and Kendrick Nunn, who is yet to play this season. That leaves the Lakers incredibly limited in terms of the kinds of trades they can make. Los Angeles could package THT and Nunn together in a deal, but the most it can take back in salary in this particular case would be $18.1 million, which is 125% of the combined value of THT and Nunn's contracts. That would barely be enough to trade for someone like, let's say, the Indiana Pacers big man, Miles Turner, who's making $18 million, and just short of what they would need to match in salary to get Jeremy Grant from the Detroit Pistons, right? In the latter case, the Lakers would need to add one of their minimum salary players to make the deal work. But even if the Lakers attached an unprotected 2027 first round pick, they would likely get outbid. But he gets up and gallops back down the floor. These are the things that Laker fans need to look forward to for the rest of this season, because nothing will be changing until the offseason, man. It's FYF Sports, and we out.